Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Intermittent Theater Company's virtual reading of Passing On. My name is Justin Lahue, and I am the director of tonight's production. We are so thrilled that you can join us as we stream through the On the Stage platform. As you may have noticed, above your feed are links to more info on the cast and crew of this production, in addition to more information on ITC. I just have a few quick announcements before we get started. For today's performance, the stage directions will be read by our lovely stage manager, Gracie Libby. The show runs approximately 30 minutes, and we encourage you to stay logged on at the end to join a talkback with the cast and playwright, Chris Erath. You can submit questions and comments at the end of the show through the chat feature at the bottom corner of your screen. Coming up next on the ITC virtual stage, The Pandemic Plays on September 26th. 3 10-minute plays dealing with the pandemic by local playwrights. Then, auditions for an abridged production of Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus. Virtual auditions begin September 4th. ITC always welcomes new directors and playwrights, and you can find out more about this on our website and Facebook page. Once the show is over, we would love to hear your feedback. Visit our Facebook page or website to fill out a quick survey about the show. Finally, no screen recording or screenshots, please. Without further ado, turn on those screens and enjoy this performance of Passing On.
A well-appointed home just before Christmas, oddly lacking in any Christmas decorations. It is the home of Mom and Dad, Bruce's parents, and Bruce and his wife, Reese, have just arrived. Bruce is holding a note which evidently was tacked to the front door.
Leaving a note saying, "We went to the store, but come on in," may not be the cutting edge of security protocol.
Come on, I hardly think your parents live in a high-crime neighborhood.
With enough of an invitation, any neighborhood can be high crime. Did I ever tell you my mom's car was stolen out of the driveway?
Really?
Yeah, because she leaves the keys in it at all times. Says it's too much trouble to remember where they are. Someone came to the house, noticed the keys sitting in plain sight, and came back. And you know what? She still does it. If you'd like a new Lexus SUV, be my guest.
I think they'd write me out of the will if I did that.
You remember the rules, right?
Coming back to me now, but I haven't been here in a while. Remind me?
Mom has certain rules of the house.
Yes, like don't use the towel she leaves out for guests.
Right.
Because those are, what, the ceremonial towels?
No, because if you used those towels, they would look used, and that would spoil the look she's going for.
Hence we brought our own. Hope this doesn't catch on at hotels. And wasn't there a rule about chairs?
Yep, you can only sit in the odd-numbered chairs.
The chairs are numbered.
No, you're expected to be able to handle the concept of even and odd.
I'll tell you what's odd.
And never, ever use any trash can you can see.
I'll limit myself to the invisible ones.
Come on, she takes these rules seriously. If you can see the trash can, you can see the trash in it, and that just won't do. That's why the trash cans are in closets or drawers.
I'm beginning to see why you have your quirky side.
This time of all times, we need to play along with Mom's quirks. Remember why we're here.
Revenue enhancement, I know.
This is tough for me. I never wanted to be in the position of needing to ask my parents for money, but I really think this can work.
It will be interesting. Hey, Mom and Dad, I'm quitting my reasonably well-paying job at the bank because I want to start a business that no one's ever heard of before. What is it, you ask? Well, I'm going to teach people how to legally steal.
I don't think I'll put it quite that way. And it's not stealing if it's legal. Did you know some dude invented an app for the first iPhone that did absolutely nothing other than turn your screen red? And he charged $1,000 for it. And he told people up front that the app did nothing.
Bet that was a big seller.
People bought it. Was that stealing?
No, it was a test of who's a moron.
Are you ever serious?
I can't help it. It's the way I deal with stressful situations.
And this is stressful, so I need your help with this. It's going to be hard to convince them. I may need a Christmas miracle to pull this off.
Mom and Dad arrive home and are heard outside before entering.
Okay, here they are. Remember the rules, and a little less snark wouldn't be a terrible idea, stressful or no.
I'll try. Sit in odd-numbered chairs and invite people to steal my car, right?
Mom and Dad enter, bearing no packages.
Bruce, you made it! And Reese, so good to see you again.
Hey, there's my boy. Merry Christmas. Almost.
And you, Helen.
Dad, you never look older. How do you do it?
Now I've told you to call me Mom, dear.
Right, Mom. Merry Christmas.
Vigorous exercise and healthy eating, at least once a month, whether I need it or not.
Yeah, don't overdo it.
How are things in the world of high finance?
I wouldn't exactly call it high finance, Dad. The last loan I approved was because a guy wanted to build a tank for his inflatable orca to live in.
You just have to be patient. Everyone starts small.
Well, Bruce has bigger ideas. Right, honey?
Yeah. Well, Mom and Dad, I've been thinking about leaving banking. It's becoming too much Orwell. All I do is worry about whether anything I do complies with this regulation or that one. One of my colleagues got fired because they needed a scapegoat for not approving the right number of loans to the right group of people.
Rules are important. I've always run my house with them.
This isn't a decision to be taken lightly. What would you do if you left?
And now we come to it.
I trust you're not going to take up the cello like Reese. Someone has to put bread on the table.
Well, that's...
Know exactly what I want to do. I'm going into business for myself.
But you don't know how to do anything, dear.
Thanks, Mom, but that's not strictly true. I'm already doing some freelancing, and I have a couple of clients. If I focus on it, I think I can get more, but not if I spend my days dealing with the Consolidated Omnibus Lending to Druidic Peoples of Scholastic Descent Act of 1997.
And what is this business to be?
I analyze data and tell people how to make more money.
He tells businesses how to prey upon people's weaknesses.
Reese, please.
Well, perhaps you could give us an example.
So far, I only have 2 clients. The first is the State Avenue Fairness Executives, which goes by their acronym SAFE. SAFE, as you may know, took over running the Mass Pike from the state. They put in the whole Easy Pass system and handle all aspects of revenue collection. Well, they can't really increase tolls because they're supposed to not have any tolls on the Pike as of 10 years ago. That promise was made to the taxpayers. But no one really batted an eyelash when it was broken. At least they can't announce a toll increase.
But they can use an unannounced toll increase.
Well, I'm not following. And where do you come in?
I know the guys who run SAFE from grad school, and they told me they needed to make more money. So I gave them a simple suggestion. You know there are cameras at every toll booth, right? And when people go through without paying, a picture gets taken of their license plates so they can be identified and billed.
So bill them more.
No, bill them more often. The fine is so low that people tend to pay it, so I told them to send out more bills.
Someone will pay you to suggest that they send out bills.
You're missing the point. Bruce's contribution was to suggest that they send out bills to drivers whether or not they paid the toll. As long as the fine is small, most people will pay rather than bother to fight it. And if they fight it, oh, sorry, it's a billing error.
You told them to bill people who didn't skip tolls for skipping tolls?
And they've made a fortune. Revenue enhancement.
How is that legal?
They're asking people for money. If people don't read the notice they're sent and pay, well, nothing illegal about it.
Well, I'm not sure about this.
Let me give you another example. Pizza.
Pizza! Everyone loves pizza!
A guy I work with owns a chain of pizzerias in Cambridge and was having trouble financially. So I made a suggestion.
Charge people for pizza whether or not they eat it.
Dad? No, charge more, but only to some people.
Brilliant.
But those people wouldn't buy the pizza, dear.
Ah, but there's the idea. If you tell people a pizza now costs $20 just for them, you're right. No sales. But I told him, remember, Mrs. Cambridge, to start moral pizza pricing. His prices are a function of income level. The more you make, the more your pizza costs.
He asks people how much money they make.
Exactly. Everyone who thinks the minimum wage should be $20 an hour and tax rates 90% can now buy a pizza in line with their moral convictions. You'd be amazed how people plop down at 20 and feel good about themselves. By the way, he also tells them his pizzas are made with free-range cheese.
And it works. The pizza guy morally drives a Ferrari.
People pay you to come up with ideas like this?
That's the notion.
Well, I can't see this as a sustainable career.
The applications are endless. Give me any business, I'll give you an idea.
Food.
Easiest way would be to find something else like gluten, which, after all, is protein, and the vast majority of people have no problem with, and suggest that it might not be entirely healthy. Then market a line of protein-free foods.
Water.
Take water cooler bottles. Change the design of the bottle so that it holds less water, then tell people the design is more ergonomic and environmentally conscious. Don't change your price, but effectively you have, as you're charging the same price for less water.
Cleanliness.
Ever wonder how the idea of ubiquitous hand sanitizers got out there? 10 years ago, no one had heard of them, and the world got along perfectly fine.
So where do you come in? Why pay you for an idea if they can do it themselves?
I analyze the data they give me so they know how much to change the design of that water bottle, to charge for that maybe not missed toll violation, so that new food that makes people feel good about eating.
And you can make a living at this?
I hope to, but I need to expand my reach a little. There's only so much to be made on pizza in Cambridge.
And that's why he needs a little help.
Help? You mean money?
Well, yes. I have to develop these ideas and pitch them, and that takes time and money, and they don't all get accepted.
Like the one where kids paid to not have kale in their school lunches.
I'm not entirely comfortable with this idea. When people ask me what my son does, I say he enhances revenue for pizza and tolls while giving them less water and having them needlessly pour stuff on their hands.
If you pay him, he'll come up with a better way to say that.
Reese, I don't think that's helpful.
You're gonna have to be a lot more convincing, Bruce. This just doesn't sound like honest work. But I always told you to follow your dreams, and I'm willing to talk more about it, but after Christmas.
I'll be happy to do that, Dad, and explain more. But I have a couple real strong leads right now and could use a little short-term help. Let me grab you a drink while we talk.
That's a lovely garbage can you have.
Thank you.
When are you putting up the Christmas decorations?
They only go in the Christmas room.
Right. Is there anything I can help you with?
I think we're fine. The only thing we have to pick up is the Christmas goose. Odd. Bill and I just tried. The butcher said there was a problem with the credit card. But I think it was a problem with his machine, as it wouldn't take our other cards either. We'll try again tomorrow. I'm sure it'll work.
Did he say why they didn't work?
No, just that they were denied.
Ellen, Bruce has a good lead right now. If you don't object, let's lend him a small amount, small, now as a trial, and we'll reserve judgment on any more until the new year. It's Christmas, a time for new chances.
I like your Christmas spirit. Bruce, let's go do the transfer.
Well, forgive me for speaking out of turn, but you don't seem thrilled with Bruce's new career.
Not at all. That stultifying bank environment is killing him. He never should have taken that job. And he can't go back now anyway.
Well, it didn't seem like a bad idea when I recommended it.
I didn't mean to criticize, but it's not him. He's a free-thinking genius in an environment where free thinking is just as common as people who can name the 3 rivers.
So you're okay with your livelihood being tied to his ability to produce these odd schemes?
I make a fair living with the BSO, you know. And to answer a different question, yes, I think he'll do quite well and be much happier.
Moral pizza. What's next?
All he's doing is satisfying a demand. You know, he's very close to getting some pretty major investments based on what he's already done. He could have signed on with a traditional company to improve their business model, but that would have put him back in a dreary environment.
Major investments?
$3 different investors are on the verge of signing up and giving him the best Christmas present. He even had to give out this address as a potential meeting spot. That's how close we thought we were to signing some papers. But it hasn't happened, and he's got a major presentation to do right after Christmas, so he had to ask.
Well, I don't know. I'd like to see more evidence that this is viable before he leaves the bank.
Wrong tense.
Oh, good Lord. And I thought we could have a nice, uncomplicated Christmas dinner without having to worry about whether my son will advise my nursing home to make more money for me by selling shuffleboard privileges.
You're catching on.
Well, I'm only in for now, and I don't want this to ruin Christmas. Some specter of the ghost of bad Christmas is yet to come hanging over us.
Did someone say Spectre? Because apparently I'm dead.
Excuse me?
According to the government, I'm dead.
You look really good for a dead person.
Do we know why the government has declared you dead?
Funeral arrangements seem unnecessary, I guess.
I have no idea. But the bank has apparently put a hold on all our credit cards as they belong to a dead person.
You'll be the first person to ever outlive the flowers sent to a funeral.
And the bank accounts, too?
Yes, apparently there were what they call irregularities.
Other than a dead person calling them. Hey, can we use the garbage cans now?
But what about Dad? Isn't he still alive?
Looks just as alive as your mother.
I couldn't get any information out of them as to what was going on. We've got no credit cards and no cash until I convince them I'm undead.
Perhaps a zombie fight.
In the meantime, we've got no money. How does leftovers for Christmas dinner sound?
Not much of a last meal. Wait, not really a last meal?
You're not helping, Reese. Enough.
Well, speaking of not helping, Bruce, I don't see how we can help you just now. You need money for your presentation, and we apparently have nothing until your mother comes back to life.
What did Mark Twain say? The reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated? Or was that Winston Churchill?
Now, this is not exactly turning out to be a Hallmark Christmas. All we need is a snowstorm and some shady character showing up on our doorstep, just as the power goes out and we all lose our cell phones.
There is a knock at the door.
It's not snowing. And the power is still on. Maybe it's George Bailey or his guardian angel.
I don't want to hear about angels right now.
It is Christmas Eve.
Well, I guess we should answer.
He moves slowly to the door, glances at the others, and opens it to reveal Detective Trotter.
Yes?
I'm Detective Trotter from Bradford Woods PD. May I please speak to Mr. Anderson?
Well, I'm Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry to disturb you, sir, but may I come in?
Certainly.
Thank you. I'm sorry to disturb you, but we were alerted about an unfortunate situation and wanted to bring it to your attention. But as a first matter, my condolences.
Condolences?
About your wife, sir. I understand she recently passed.
Detective, allow me to introduce you to my son, daughter-in-law, and wife.
Oh, grieving takes different forms, I guess.
Well, I haven't remarried, Detective. From all appearances, my wife is not, in fact, dead.
Never felt better, Detective, other than a bit of a headache. But I understand that's to be expected, coming back from the dead.
She's not dead, Detective. There seems to be some sort of misunderstanding.
We've received reports of some irregular activities associated with your wife, or rather, her social security number. I'm sorry to have to inform you that there appears to have been an error somewhere, as you have been reported to the government as dead.
You have a gift for understatement.
How can this happen? And what happens now that Mom is listed as dead?
Before we go there, I need to ask you a few questions. Would that be all right?
Should we have a seance?
I suppose.
Sounds a bit ominous. Should we get a lawyer or make a phone call?
Go ahead, ask your questions. There's nothing to hide here. Reese, why don't you get the detective a glass of water?
We can't afford it.
Reese goes nowhere. Dad takes up a position next to Reese. Mom sits. Trotter sits in the next chair and takes out a notebook.
Would you mind moving over there, Detective?
Sure. Mrs. Anderson, in the last few days, have you purchased an iPhone?
No.
Have you, in fact, made a bulk purchases of iPhone?
Certainly not.
And have you purchased a Harley Davidson?
No.
Visited Earl's Tattoo Parlor?
No.
Filled a number of Vicodin prescriptions?
She might actually need that if you keep asking her these questions.
Absolutely not.
Applied for a visa to visit Colombia?
No. No.
These purchases can be easily verified, Mrs. Anderson.
Detective, listen to yourself. Does my mother look like she's got a going-away tattoo before she rides off with her Vicodin-laced iPhone posse straight to Colombia?
I assure you, Detective, not only have I not recently done any of those things, I have never done them. Would you like me to disrobe so you can see my tattoos?
Helen.
I'm afraid, Mrs. Anderson, that you are a victim of identity theft. When you are reported as dead, your social security number is placed in what's called the death master file. Unfortunately, this file is accessible to anyone. And if a criminal gets hold of an active number, he can use that social security number to get credit cards, fill prescriptions, and otherwise use your identity.
We're beginning to learn that, Detective. We found out today that our bank accounts were frozen, and my wife was told that she is dead.
Unfortunately, this happens with some frequency. If somebody makes a one-digit error when they enter a number into the death master file, the wrong person can die. If it's any consolation, there's someone out there whose family is still getting payments like Social Security, even though they're actually dead.
Forgive us if that's of little consolation, Detective.
So what do we do, Detective? We have no access to our money, and it's Christmas.
We'll need to verify these charges aren't yours, which should only take a couple of days. It may take a bit longer given the holiday, but you should be in the clear as far as we're concerned by the end of the week.
Well, that's great, but we'll still have frozen bank accounts and no money. How do we bring my wife back from the dead?
Now that's something you don't expect to hear when you wake up in the morning.
That's something you have to take up with the government, I'm afraid. They inadvertently kill off 10,000 or so people every year, so they have some experience with bringing people back from the dead.
Isn't that the other holiday?
Should be cleared up quickly, I'd hope, and you'll be a credit zombie no longer. I apologize for the inconvenience in stopping by, but we've been after this ring of identity thieves for a bit now and wanted to make sure. I'll be in touch. Oh, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Detective. Please let us know if there's any way we can help you.
I'm a credit zombie.
Another thing I didn't expect to hear when I got up this morning.
Sometimes I just wish I lived in simpler times. Since I got up this morning, I found out that my son has been driven out of his job by regulations, been confronted by a policeman wondering if I sell illegal drugs that I'm not inking up or committing some sort of international fraud by getting a false passport, discovered I'm dead, and have become destitute.
Maybe the soup kitchen's open for Christmas.
And we can't help Bruce.
Don't worry about that, Dad. When I came here today, I thought that was a big problem, but I'll have other chances to land clients. We've got to get you out of this mess and, well, back to life.
Well, good luck with that, with half the world off for the holidays. Well, we'll all remember this Christmas, even if not fondly. Come on, Helen, let's try calling the Social Security people. We have to start somewhere. And we'll offer up a prayer to St. Jude.
If you don't run into him first, Mom.
Very funny.
So, what are you going to do? You'll never convince them to hire you without a legit presentation, and you need money for that.
Options would appear limited. Guess I shouldn't have quit the bank first.
We do have some money, you know.
No, That was the deal we made, and it's a good one. We're not putting ourselves in any financial jeopardy to launch this. It sinks or it swims, but if it sinks, it doesn't take us with it. I can find some other bank, I guess.
It's okay with me, really.
That slope is too slippery. We can't go there.
Maybe one of those interested investors will come through yet.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe this was just never going to work. I haven't been able to convince anyone so far, not even my parents.
You convinced me.
Only because I told you how much to price cello to lessons to rich kids.
You made the cello the most popular instrument in town. Not sure what the orchestra is going to do with that many cellos.
Believe it or not, no one's working at the SSA at 1 o'clock Christmas Eve.
Probably off figuring out who they want to kill the most.
Killing isn't relative, hun. They are figuring out whom they most want to kill.
A knock at the door.
Think it's a coincidence there was a knock right after we talked about killing? Maybe this day still can get worse.
Dad goes to the door and opens it to reveal Charles Murray.
Can I help you?
Is this the Anderson residence?
It is.
I was told I could find Bruce Anderson here.
Oh, yes, he's here. Come on in.
Oh, that's a relief. I was a bit concerned when I saw the police pulling away. Is everything all right?
Depends on how you define that term. It's been an interesting day. I'm Bruce Anderson, and you are...
Oh, I'm sorry. My day has been a bit odd as well. Aside from the police, I keep seeing kids with cellos. I'm Charles Murray, and I apologize for not calling first. I tried you, but there was no answer.
His phone died. So did she.
Excuse me?
My wife and parents, Mr. Murray. What brings you here?
Oh, I thought that was clear. I represent a group of investors to whom you had reached out, Mr. Anderson, and I was under the impression that you had been contacted. We want in. Anybody who can get a guy to pay $50 for a pizza and walk out feeling good about it, well, the possibilities are endless. Could I speak to you in private?
Is this what I think it is?
Did you have that meeting with St. Jude?
Looks like revenue enhancement is about to get an enhancement of its own.
So he'll have the money he needs to go after the new clients?
Here's hoping, but looks that way.
Well, I have to say I have my doubts about this notion, but if he can attract outside investors, maybe there's something to it.
I'm so sorry to have intruded on your Christmas celebration, but Mr. Anderson had given out this address, and we simply didn't feel it could wait.
Mr. Murray, I don't think you'll hear anyone complaining. Thank you so much for making the trip.
A day after Christmas, then, 9 o'clock in my office to do the paperwork.
I'll be there.
Terrific. Oh, and Merry Christmas to your family, and to all well, good night.
Congratulations, Bruce!
Now that's a Christmas present.
Looks like revenue enhancement will be a winner.
You know, I always thought it could work, but right up until this moment, I had doubts. The test cases worked, but could I get someone to take me seriously? And now, I can.
And we should have been the first behind you. Tell you what, Bruce, Mom and I want in as well. At least we do once both of us are alive and the authorities are no longer investigating us for drug sales or passport fraud.
Hope having a mother with this kind of record doesn't affect your prospects.
I really appreciate that, Mom and Dad. And with Mr. Murray's group investing, I can really get this up and running.
Well, I was about to say something about this being a Christmas miracle, but no. It's no miracle when you do the work and get a payoff. And speaking of which, Helen, let's try again to resurrect you. I don't want to have to wear black for Christmas.
You know, Irene has always had a thing for you. Now that you're a widower, what's to stop her?
Gosh. Congratulations.
Feels good to get some validation. We're on our way.
No doubt. Honey, you know how we always promised to be honest with each other?
Yeah?
And you want me to be honest, right?
Where is this going?
Remember when I told you I ran into my old actor friend in Boston the other day?
Steve something or other.
Right. Well, Steve knows some people who still do that sort of thing, and I had an idea.
I'm not following.
Say you had a great idea, which needed funding, and there were two logical investors who weren't quite sure if they wanted in. You know, they just need a little push, like maybe seeing another investor join first.
Reese.
And once they saw these other investors sign on, they might as well.
Oh no.
You know what you might call that?
Revenue enhancement?
Yup.
So, Mr. Murray, the investor,
Is actually Tommy the waiter.
you just scammed my parents for Christmas.
No scam. You have great ideas and are on the verge of proving that. We told them how great and gave them examples. No scam. And they made a choice to join us of their own free will. Not coincidentally, a choice which will make them a nice return on their investment.
If I can't convince my parents without some kind of chicanery, where am I? And doing this behind my back.
Merry Christmas. I wasn't sure what to get you.
It's a true Christmas miracle. Someone answered the phone and claims I'll be undead by the end of the year.
Wonder if this changes how we file our taxes.
Congratulations. That's great news.
Of course, we're still stuck with leftovers for Christmas.
I think we can help out there, Mom.
Oh, Reese, I almost forgot. There was a call for you before you came. A fellow named Tommy said he wouldn't be able to make it today and hope you'd reschedule.
What?
Oh, was it important?
No, guess not.
Tommy, he's your waiter friend?
I wouldn't say he's my friend.
And if he can't make it today, I think I need to Google Charles Murray.
Is something wrong, Reese?
You do look a little pale.
Just trying to figure something out.
This may be the part where the hidden cameras come out.
I'm not sure what's wrong with you two. A mysterious visitor just granted your Christmas wish. Your mother's back from the dead, almost, and you look like you've seen a ghost. May I propose a toast
Dad fills 4 glasses and they each take one.
to revenue enhancement, Christmas, family, and honesty?
They drink as the lights fade and curtain.
That's the show. I believe we've got Jake Lewis joining us for this talk back. Thank you, everybody, for making it out to see the show. Really appreciate it. So we've got Jake joining us, and I believe Chris will be joining us in just a second as well. We can talk a little bit about the show. Before we hop into that, though, Jake, if you don't mind, for those of us who aren't familiar with ITC, can you tell me a little bit about the company, its founding, your vision for the company?
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, to the cast and the crew, excellent job. I really enjoyed that. So thank you for all your hard work and making this such a wonderful production for ITC. But as for the company itself, I think like a lot of people, I was just kind of needing that theater fix once, COVID came along, and understandably the theater shut down, as they should have for safety. But when you're an actor and you have that pull to do theater, I was seeing other companies doing virtual type things, and I thought, let's give that a shot. And so I came across a Twilight Zone episode that was public domain, so that meant it was free. And I thought that would be a fun radio play to do, because who doesn't love the Twilight Zone? And during one of those rehearsals, I said to the cast, I said, hopefully if this goes well, we can do another show at some time. So this is sort of like a time-to-time theater. And then one of the actors says, we're going to be doing it intermittently. And so there was the name. And we've been doing it a little bit more than intermittently. I basically have one thing a month. But that's kind of the origins of it. And hopefully, obviously, theaters will reopen again in the not too distant future. But I think there might be somewhat of a need for another kind of theater like this. So hopefully this can continue on in some fashion, even when we get back to, well, a semblance of a normal life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think that this particular brand of theater with the virtual performance is such an interesting thing to explore. We both have the audience right there with us. I mean, we have the viewer count. I can see who's actually watching it. And yet they're really coming in from all over the country. It's, in a way, it's spreading the types of stories that we can tell and the areas where we can tell those stories.
Yes.
It's a really interesting new medium. So I thank you for being one of the people charging through it.
Doing my best.
We appreciate your struggle.
Yeah.
So, Chris, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Bravo.
Thank you very much. Now, if I understand correctly, you joined us a little bit before we went live. Is this the first time that you've heard the play being read out loud?
Unless you count the voices in my head, yes. So, when you write something, you always have an idea of how it will sound, but you never know for sure until you try. Or in my case, until you sit here and listen to the excellent job that all of you just did. So, very well done.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I count the voices in your head. At least I count my own voices in my head. So I maybe we both
Seems fair.
checked out. I'll send you a link to my therapist. We'll make it work.
The voices get angry if you ignore them.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a way to enhance the revenue of your therapist.
Aha.
Yeah, I honestly, I work on commission, so it really kind of works that way. So actually, I realized that we still have our character names, and I still have the ITC name. If we can pop over and change our names, just so we know who is talking. Phenomenal. There we go. And for everybody who's listening at home, I encourage you to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen. We should be seeing some questions pop up. While we wait on that a little bit, Chris, can you talk to me a little bit about this show, how it came to be?
This isn't going to be nearly as good of a story as you might hope, but I came across the idea started when I came across an article about the number inadvertently declared dead each year. And so the statistics cited in there were real, and and what you do when you're declared dead by the government. So between that piece of information and my mother-in-law, I thought I had a play. Those rules are, for the most part, real, and I lived them.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
I don't know if I could do it.
If you'd like me to introduce you.
Oh my goodness, that's really phenomenal.
Still to this day, we bring our own towels when we visit. So
does that include the keys in the car in the driveway?
That is a true statement. That she does that. I'm not going to give you her address.
Oh, damn.
I knew where you were going, Matt.
Yeah, Matt, we'll have to work and try to find that later.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't be that hard to get Detective Trotter to figure that out for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for this production. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I mean, I'm honored to be one of the first people who's handling this material. I think that having a virtual read-through like this is such an interesting way to serve as a test bed for the production as a whole. I mean, it's stripped down aside from all of the theatricality of it, and we're just getting those pure words and your plot, and I really appreciate that. Chris is now a lighting designer going over there.
Yes,
There we go.
that's my mother working on the lights over here. So you make the best you can do with the technical staff during these times of pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, the unions aren't working, so somebody has to. I really appreciate that.
I have a question for anyone in the cast, or Justin and Gracie, if you want to answer it. Because I'm actually genuinely curious. What is it like from the actor side to perform or direct in this medium?
Anybody want to take that?
Bueller?
Go. I obviously I enjoyed it. However, I mean, that's what we can say about everything right now. I miss the camaraderie. I miss being with people physically, because I feel like you really build those connections as a cast and a crew, and that's like that's my favorite thing about theater, is it's like a little family. And yeah, that's basically how it was. It was fun. It definitely like kind of fed my bug a little bit. I'm okay now. I can sustain myself for a little while longer. But I miss that.
Sure.
I don't miss memorizing lines.
The nervous memorizing lines.
I think we probably would all agree that is the worst part of acting, is memorizing lines.
Yeah. So for anybody who is listening out there, who's watching out there, getting back to like the whole ITC kind of concept, in addition to those 2 radio plays that I've already done, this is a new format that I was trying out, where I solicited, local playwrights to submit things for, once upon a time, you might have had a staged reading where people would go to a theater and see people read a script for the first time. Sometimes it's in a small group they would do it. And I thought, well, as a playwright myself, I'm always trying to find ways to get my material out there to an audience. And because we are somewhat limited with the virtual space, I wanted to try that out here. And Chris, who was in my past radio play, said, hey, I have a script for you, and sent that in. And I just thought I thought the play itself was very funny. I thought it was very honest. In some ways, it felt a lot like, a Neil Simon farce in a way, or like Woody Allen, kind of the fast-pacing, witty repartee that you might find in there in his older stuff. So I thought this is going to be a great piece to begin these table reads. So if any playwrights are out there and want to maybe see your work up here, I'd love to ideally do 1 a month, if possible. So send them our way.
I will state as well, we have a couple of issues with my ability to view the chat, so I promise we're not ignoring you. I have an outside party messaging me all of these questions.
Oh.
Hence why I'm on my phone. I promise I'm not ignoring you. So as we go through, I'll point some things out as well.
Yeah, this is first for all of us.
Yeah, I will say this is my first time working with the On the Stage program, which is a really interesting platform for this kind of digital performance as well. I think it's fantastic that we have that digital playbill of sorts, so that you can look at your cast, you can look at your crew, you can get tickets all within that one sort of centralized location.
Right.
It's a phenomenal program. How did you find this program, Jake?
So a colleague of mine, who I've worked with at Worcester Light Opera Company, he was directing a production of Steel Magnolias. And I went and I watched it, and I said, wow, the video is amazing. The sound is amazing. How did you do that? Because I saw the Zoom thing in the corner. I'm like, really? Zoom does that? And so he told me about this program, or the software website, On the Stage. And I looked into it, and it's run by a Broadway actor whose name I've forgotten. I'm sorry. But it's someone who kind of gets theater. It's not just a guy who wanted to start a website and make some money, although I'm sure that's part of it, but it's a person who kind of gets the whole need for theater. And I just thought it was very user-friendly.
Yeah, I've found that it's very friendly on the side of actually planning and executing rehearsals, which leads into a couple of things that we have from our lovely audience. First, apparently I need to post the link to the therapist in the chat. And we'll make that work. We have a massive shout out to Chris's mom. I think that we've got a lot of fans on the other side there.
She deserves it. She has to put up with me.
That's phenomenal. We have a question. Chris, how long did it take for you to write this piece?
Well, that depends on how you define the word "right." You know, the first draft I actually wrote in a weekend after thinking about it, for a while, and living with my mother-in-law. And then it just becomes a question of refining, and taking out the clunky lines that don't really further the story. That things that sound great when you're first thinking about it and don't sound great when you try to read it. So. But yeah, the first draft was done in a weekend, and then just sort of a steady editing process thereafter.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We have another question coming in from AJ O'Neill, who's curious about what our rehearsals look like, the time commitment, specific challenges encountered with the formatting, and kind of the things that come with a Zoom performance. I'll speak on that a little bit, and then we can open it up to anybody else here. This was one of my first times working within this particular type of performance. I'm familiar with the Zoom platform, as I think all of us are during this time, but using it through on the stage is definitely something that was a little bit new. With the nature of doing a staged reading, we didn't need to have as many rehearsals as you normally would. It's not like we're working with some elements of composition and some things that require extensive rehearsals, but nothing really that intense. So I think we had, and Gracie, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be fudging some numbers. We had around like 3 to 4 real rehearsals that were about 90 minutes to 2 hours a piece, which essentially was a lot of table work, a lot of scene work going through with character development, and a lot of very specific emphasizing. One of the challenges and really intriguing things about this medium is that it places so much emphasis on the words, which then creates this emphasis that we need on making sure that it's conveyed as clearly and concisely as possible. So it was a really fun challenge to go through. It's very similar to how you would conduct a radio play of sorts, only we have radios plays with facial expressions. So it was, I mean, you couldn't have a better cast and a better stage manager and a better producer and playwright to be working with. It really was a dream team coming together with all of this. But we rehearsed about once a week for the past couple of weeks, and then we had 2 rehearsals leading up to today's performance with a longer tech rehearsal last night. We've been pretty much recording as many things as we can, trying to put together different reels and different archival footage as we go along. But yeah, it's been a fun time. It's been a little weird. Do we have any, maybe Danny, any thoughts on things with virtual performance and internet connection?
Well, one of the things that you sort of have to take into consideration when you're doing a virtual performance like this, that you definitely do not have to worry about when you're performing live, are things like internet connections. My internet connection, as they'll all tell you, was notoriously bad for some reason, and I would freeze like for no apparent reason. So we made sure that I had an Ethernet cable for today, so that I would not bump out of the performance. So that was a learning curve, and I've never had to deal with that in my years of doing theater. So you learn something new every day. Yeah. So thank you all for being so patient.
It was truly torturous, Danny, from me to you. It was the worst thing I've ever experienced. Yeah, no, it is, you kind of have to be resilient to all of those little challenges. I mean, we're all working relatively within the same spot of the United States, so it's not like we're going across the world with our streams. But it still is something, Zoom has its quirks, as everybody has discovered. So it's been an interesting challenge to work around those. Let's see what else we have for questions here. Thank you everybody for going into the chat. I know that we have a couple of people who aren't able to access it. And I wish I could tell you, we'll try to fix that as we go through if you're having any difficulty with the chat. We have a comment saying, great job with ticket purchases, links to streaming as well. On the Stage is phenomenal with that. Let's say we've got big thanks for writing this to the cast and crew, for giving me and my partner, giving us a night out. Yeah, so we've got, it's a really interesting thing. I'm curious on behalf of like the audience here, What is it like to be performing through this medium where you both have people live, but yet you don't really have them live in the traditional sense? How does that resonate for you?
I like the feeding off the audience.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part of theater because I like attention. So, that stinks, but that's okay.
I completely agree, but I think in many ways the adrenaline is still there, and that sense of like we are doing this live. It was great to have that feeling again when we haven't had it for so long.
Definitely. And having to push the mute button at the right time. I was so nervous that I was going to be sitting there.
Between the mute button and working with the screens going on and off, yeah, it's an interesting new challenge, this virtual blocking of sorts. We have a question about timing and rhythm, whether that's tougher online. I would say absolutely. It's not as intense with a show of this nature. We're not working with live music for the most part in any aspect. And so any delays we can kind of build into it. But with a show like this, it's pretty much, it's a comedy, and comedy is about rhythm and pacing. And that's one of the most important things. A lot of what we were working with in the rehearsal room is how much air we wanted to give these different pieces of the show, to have that breathe and that flow go through. Perfect. I think we have enough time for one more question. I have 3 different sources sending me things from the chat, so I'm kind of scattered around. Do we have any questions from our cast, Jake, Chris, Gracie, regarding the process? Phenomenal. Well, in that case, I think it's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much to our audience for coming out virtually tonight. Thank you to our cast, to our lovely crew, producer, Chris Erath, our playwright. It has been a phenomenal experience, and I'm very grateful to have been able to share the screen with you tonight. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Bravo, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.